Hey guys, it's Kyra and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'll be continuing my Makeup for Beginners series. If you guys saw, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I did my first video, which was how to apply eyeshadow like a pro. So basically in that video, I talked through basically step by step how to apply eyeshadow, the brushes that I use, product placement, techniques, all that good stuff. So if you haven't watched that video, I'd recommend to go watch that first because I'm kind of doing these series videos in order of like how I actually apply makeup myself. So I always typically do brows first, which I do have a detailed in-depth brow tutorial. So go watch that. And then I always do eyeshadow second. I usually always do eyeshadow before foundation just because it alleviates the issue of fallout. So I do that, and then next I go in and do my skin. Now I'll be splitting the skin portion into 2 separate videos because it's very detailed and there's many parts to prepping the skin and applying foundation and hiding, contouring, all that. So I want to split them into 2 videos. So this video here will be all about prepping the skin and applying foundation. So whenever it comes to prepping your skin and applying foundation, that includes moisturizing, priming, color correcting, and also picking your foundation shade. That's going to be one of the topics, and then of course actually applying it. And then part 2 will be the actual hiding and contouring. So those will be 2 separate videos. So definitely watch this one and then stay tuned for the next one because the next one will be basically what I do right after I finish this video, if that makes sense. So okay, so my face as of now is just very bare. I don't have anything on my face at all. My first tip, of course, is to always start on a clean base. So I always wash my face right before I apply foundation. I don't know, I have something about like going in and applying foundation on top of like sweat, or like if you've been outside, or if you're like really oily. Like I will always just go and wash my face first before I go ahead and apply foundation. So that's my first tip. And then my second tip is, actually this should be the number 1 tip. Skincare is everything. Like people don't understand how important skincare is whenever it comes to applying foundation and makeup. Your skincare, I'm telling you, determines how your makeup looks. Because if you don't take care of your skin, then you can definitely see through your foundation. Now, I don't care how much foundation you pack onto your skin, how much concealer and powder you apply. If you have bad skin, it's going to show. I do have a skincare video also on my channel, so go back and check that. I have a full skincare routine on like how I wash, how I extract my pores, how I cleanse my pores, face mask, all of that stuff. And I do all of that to take care of my skin. So this is my skin with no product on. We've come a long way, you guys. Yeah. So once I've washed my face, I always go in and moisturize. Now, moisturizing your skin before applying your foundation makes a huge difference, because there's a point in time actually where I did not moisturize my skin, and I'd apply my foundation, my powders and concealer and all that, and my skin would be so freaking dry, and I have oily skin. So I used to think that because I had oily skin, I didn't need to moisturize before my foundation. No, absolutely not. You have to moisturize your skin. Whether you have dry skin, oily skin, combination skin, you have to moisturize your skin, because moisturizing your skin will help to not only soften the skin, but it also actually eases the foundation application. Because if your skin is really soft and supple, once you go and apply that foundation, go to buff out that foundation, it actually makes it a lot easier, and your foundation applies so much smoother, and you don't have to worry about dry patches or anything like that. So definitely moisturize your skin. My go-to moisturizer is the Sephora Instant Moisture Plus Cream. I take a little bit on my finger right now, and with this, a little bit goes a long way. I'm gonna apply this to my skin, and this one is so good, you guys. It feels so good. It's a very creamy consistency, but it's not heavy or anything, so you don't really feel it on your skin, and it doesn't really leave any residue. It's not really thick. It doesn't make you really oily. It's just literally just adding in moisture to your skin. Okay, so now my skin is all moisturized. As you can see, my skin doesn't look as dry as it did a couple minutes ago. Like, it looks a lot better, a lot more healthy now. So after I do moisturizer, my next step is always primer. And I typically mix 2 different primers, and I'm explaining why. I always go in with a mattifying primer. So if you guys don't know, mattifying just basically means to make your skin matte. Now, if you are oily, then you definitely want to use a mattifying primer, because the mattifying primer will help to keep your oil under control. A lot of people that have drier skin, if you have drier skin, you don't really necessarily need it, because you won't be getting oily or anything throughout the day. And sometimes mattifying primers actually, if you're dry, it makes your skin even drier. So if you're on the drier scale, I wouldn't use this. I would just go to another primer. But if you're oily, definitely if you're oily, you want to use a mattifying primer. And I really only apply to the areas that I am typically oiliest, which is my T-zone. And the T-zone is this area right here. So you're here and here. So your forehead, nose, and then your cheek area. That's where I personally get the oiliest, is just literally here, 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 and there. So I really only apply this primer, which is my holy grail. You guys know it's my holy grail, and that is the Becca Ever Matte Poreless Priming Perfector. And I just apply this to my T-zone. So just again to my forehead, cheeks, and my nose. And when I say just even adding in a primer to your foundation routine makes such a huge difference, you guys. It really, really does. I personally believe that whenever it comes to makeup, there are certain things that you can skimp on. Like, you know, you can go with cheaper foundations or cheaper, you know, powders, things like that. But I feel like primer is one thing that, like, if you splurge on anything, you should splurge on a primer. Because a good primer will make such a huge difference. Like, such a huge difference. And I can tell you, drugstore primers, there is some that have come close, but as far as the intensity of this one, just go ahead and splurge the $30-some, whatever much this is, for a good primer, because it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. And then after I go in with a mattifying primer, I typically use a pore minimizing primer. Now, you guys know that I always use my Tarte Clean Slate Timeless Smoothing Primer, long title. And I just focus this on the areas that I have large pores. So I have really large pores in my cheek area. So I just go in and apply a little bit of my primer to those areas. And this step you can do if you do have dry skin. So keep that in mind. If you do have dry skin, but you have larger pores, you can go ahead and use, you know, a pore minimizing primer. Because the whole point of a pore minimizing primer is to help blur out and smooth out those pores. So basically the primer will kind of act as like a plug. Think of like a plug. So you have your pores, just like little holes, and the primer, you know, you'll put it over the pores, and basically the primer helps kind of fill in those pores, if that makes sense. Kind of like a plug. So that's why pressing it in really helps make it work better, if that makes sense. Now my base is done, which was my priming and moisturizing. We're about to start our actual makeup application. So first things first, this is something that I do occasionally, but I want to show you guys for those of you who may have darker areas. So for those of you guys that do have darker areas, you guys know how difficult it can be sometimes to help cover up those dark spots with foundation. Now, if you have a super full coverage foundation, then you won't have this problem, but if you use, like, you know, a drugstore one or something that's more light to medium coverage, then you probably notice that sometimes whenever you apply your foundation, you can still see hints of those darker spots peeping through your foundation. And a way to help correct that is by color correcting. So basically, color correcting is a technique that's used to basically even out your skin tone. So whenever you go in to apply your foundation, it's a lot easier to have one even coverage with your foundation. So I don't have red spots. I have a few dark spots, which I'll show you guys how do I correct them. If you do have fairer skin and you have more red spots, or like if you have a red pimple or something, then you'll want to go in and color correct with a green color corrector. Now, green will help to even out and basically cancel out the redness for those red spots. But if you have darker spots, like, you know, if they have like a purplish undertone or like a brown undertone, then you'll want to use an orange color corrector. And that's what I'm going to use today. I will be using the MAC Pro Conceal and Correct palette. I use this one a lot. And this one comes with 6 different concealers. It has, you know, high-end concealers. And then it has the yellow here and an orange. So I'll be using the orange shade here at the bottom to color correct. And I won't do too much because I don't have too many spots to be color corrected. But basically all you do is you want to take just a little bit, apply it on like a small stippling brush. This is a V Cosmetics small stippling brush. It's the number 129, and kind of just apply it lightly to the areas that could use a little bit of concealing. So I have some darker spots down here along my jawline, and just kind of see, it's just like real light motion. I used to get like really heavy handed when it comes to color correcting, and what would happen is I would apply so much orange concealer that whenever I would go and apply my foundation, it would actually mix in with the foundation because I had too much on. So definitely with color correcting, a little bit goes a long way. So again, these areas that I have kind of here, I want to even out. Right here along my chin area, a lot of women have darker spots around their mouth. So you can a little bit around your mouth. And of course, make sure that you're blending it out as you're applying it. So apply and blend it out. You don't want just a big orange blob on your face. Okay? And then lastly, under my eyes, I do have darker spots under my eyes. I'll just lightly apply some concealer right there and blend it out. Blend it out, blend it out, blend it out. Alrighty guys, so our color correcting is done. We have our darker areas kind of concealed. And again, the whole point of that is to help even out your skin tone. So next step, of course, is foundation. So we've moisturized, we've primed our skin, color corrected, and then next we want to actually apply the foundation. Now this would be a bit tricky. Well, the actual foundation application is really simple, but finding the right foundation shade is a common concern for a lot of women. So I wanted to make sure that I go ahead and touch on that while I'm doing this series. So yeah, finding your correct foundation shade. Now the first step in finding your correct foundation shade is to figure out your undertones. Now, especially women of color, we tend to have different undertones in our skin. Now I mainly have yellow or golden undertones, especially around here the center. Like it's very noticeable that I'm very yellow here in the center. But around my forehead, actually around my hairline and a little bit under my chin, I have a little hint of red undertone. Like it's like yellow and red in there. But I personally go by the majority. And you can even tell by like just looking at your skin. If you look at my shoulders, like my neck and like my chest area and stuff, that's all yellow. And basically your undertone is, how do I describe it? It's kind of like just the overall warmth of your skin. I personally have seen a little bit of everything. I've seen deeper skin tones that have more yellow or deeper skin tones that have more red undertones. I've seen, you know, fairer tones that have more red or more yellow. So it kind of depends on your own personal skin type. Everyone is different. So just kind of just figure out what yours is. But again, I would use your neck, you know, your chest, your arms, just kind of figure out, okay, am I more warm? And so more warm would be, you know, do I have more red, you know, in my skin? Or am I more golden or more yellow? Kind of go off of that. Also, you want to focus on your neck and your chest area because your foundation, you want your foundation to really seamlessly blend into your neck. I have noticed that it just works a lot better whenever you kind of cater your foundation shade more so to like your neck area as opposed to your face. And also you'll notice that the center of your face is actually a lot lighter than the perimeter of your face. That's not everyone, but a lot of times the center is lighter than the rest of your face. So looking at me right now, my forehead, so this part up here, my forehead area is of course a lot darker than here. This is my center. This is my perimeter. So as you can see, this is darker than this. However, the rest of my skin, like my neck, my chest, all of that is not typically this dark. So whenever it comes to foundation, I typically will not go as dark as my forehead. Because if I do, and I've done it before, if I do, whenever I put my foundation on and blend it all out, it looks kind of crazy because my face is darker than the rest of my body. So I'm like walking around with like a whole separate like color on my face than I do the rest of my body. So I tend to go for the color that's the center of my face to like the color that's my neck or whatever. So those are my tips for kind of figuring out your undertone and figuring out what shade to navigate to. So again, look at the center of your face and your neck area. Figure out your undertone, if you're more warm, if you're more cool, if you're more golden. And then from there, figure out kind of the general idea of what shade you want. Okay, so if you have a deeper skin tone, of course you want to navigate more towards the, you know, the deeper scale of the foundation range. If you're fairer, of course, go towards the lighter shades. Me, I'm always just I'm always fall like right in the middle. Like I'm always right in the middle. I have more of I call it like a caramel. Like I have a very like caramel skin tone. So I'm typically usually in the middle. And my foundation is really just like a caramel shade. Like it's really, really yellow and golden. So with that being said, I have a couple of foundations here from MAC, and just gonna show you guys how I, you know, go about finding foundation shades. These definitely don't work, but I kind of give you an idea of what I do. Okay, so I mentioned to you guys that I kind of typically go towards the more caramel hues. And for me, that would be either NC45 or NW45, okay? So let's just say I'm in MAC or Sephora or Ulta or whatever, and I'm trying to find my actual foundation shade. So naturally, I would gravitate towards NC45. Now, here's NC45 here. As you can see, it's a very, very like golden, yellowy foundation. I mean, it's a true like yellow golden undertone foundation, okay? So naturally I gravitate towards this one. Then we have NW45, which is darker, as you can see, but NW45 is a warmer foundation. Now I'll swatch it for you guys on my face. As you can see, okay. So this right here is NW45. Now, as you can see, this color right here would honestly be a match or a close match to my forehead. Okay? You can see that. It's actually a pretty close match to my forehead. The problem is that my forehead and my rest of my body is not the same color. So if I did a whole full face application of this shade, then imagine whenever I got done and concealed and highlighted and all that good stuff, my face would be way darker than the rest of my body. And whenever I go in and blend it downwards, you can easily see the contrast between my foundation and my neck, and we do not want that. Okay, so then we say, okay, so NW45 isn't a match. It's too dark and it's too warm. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was on the warmer scale, so it had a little bit more red in it. So then I'd say, okay, so how about NC45? So I have it on my finger, and when I swatch it here, like on my jawline, so I can kind of easily see how it would look against my neck. Kind of even apply a little bit down here. Okay, so I just press it in a little bit. And see what we got, okay? So, on my neck, it looks like a pretty close match. You can even really see where the foundation is. So that means that as far as my neck goes, it's a pretty close match, okay? So my neck, it looks darn near perfect. On my face, however, as you can see, it's light. The problem is that it's a little bit too light. So that means that whenever I go in and I apply my foundation all over and I take pictures, you will see, you guys know you take pictures and you have foundation on that's too light, and you guys get that, you know, that cast on your face, and it just looks like your face is just like not even like yours. That's what would happen to my skin. Now, one way to fix foundations, I will note this, is to mix foundations. So for example, one thing that I would do is if I just had NC45 and I bought it and I didn't have another shade that was closer to my skin tone, obviously NC45 is the closest to my skin tone. It's not a perfect match, but it's the closest to my skin tone. So I take a little bit of NC45, okay, I have it on the back of my hand, and then I take a darker foundation. So I honestly keep the MAC Match Master Foundation in shade 7.5. I've had this for so long, you guys, and I have it, it's obviously too dark, but I have a foundation for the sole purpose of mixing with lighter foundations. So I would take NC45, apply like a squirt of Match Master 7.5, mix it together, and when you do that, you see how much warmer it is, and you see how much closer it is to my skin tone. So this was NC45 originally, okay? So here is NC45 originally, and then this is NC45 mixed with 7.5. So it's a lot more like my real skin tone. We can go in with our mixed foundation now and apply that to our skin, And as you can see, that's a lot closer of a match as opposed to just the NC45. Because now when I blend it in, it looks a lot more like my real skin tone, and it'll blend a lot easier all over. So again, just adding that on and mixing those two in, and it's mixing those two together makes a huge difference. So now, y'all see that? You see how mixing those two foundations together basically created my own unique skin tones. So if you're dealing with like cheaper foundations, then just go ahead and buy like 2 of whatever it is. Like if it's the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless, or like the L'Oreal Pro Matte Infallible, just go ahead and buy the 2 shades that fit you, mix them together, be done. If you kind of prefer more high-end foundations, but you struggle with finding your exact skin tone, of course, because you guys know a lot of these high-end brands don't cater to a woman of color, so they don't have enough of a shade range for us. So again, like I said, just get the shade that's closest to yours, get the shade that's closest to your skin tone, and then kind of just have like your go-to dark foundation. So again, for me, it's a Match Master 7.5. Just have it at home and handy, so whenever you go in and apply your foundation, you can easily mix that foundation with a darker foundation, mix it together to get your exact skin tone. I also recommend going a shade lighter. I personally have learned that it's easier to darken a foundation as opposed to lightening a foundation. So I'm in between 2 shades, and one's a little bit too light and one's a little bit too dark. I always will go with the one that's a little bit too light and then come home, add the foundation in and darken it, as opposed to going with the one that's too dark and attempting to lighten that one, because it usually just doesn't work out. Finding foundation shades is like a science. And you know, if you aren't working with like a Fenty Beauty where they have a million shades, you can easily find your own one. And you're working with like, you know, a limited shade range, though, that's definitely the easiest way to find your foundation shade. Figure it out. If you're warm, if you're cool, if you're golden or whatever, figure out the general area of like, you know, what you would be in. Find the shade that's closest to your skin tone. And then if it's not an exact match, then just go in, buy the lighter shade, and mix a darker foundation to it to darken it up. And then you'll have your perfect, guys, look at it. You can't even see it anymore. It's like you can find and make your perfect foundation shade. As we were mentioning, the MAC Studio Fix Fluid, that's what I would do if I was actually in store. However, the closest match to my skin, I just go ahead and just buy the NC46. Now, if I had actually bought NC45 by mistake and got home and was like, I don't want to go back to the store or whatever, I would just go ahead, like I said, and mix it with my Match Master, which I actually did for a long time until I realized that MAC had shade extensions and they had actually created an NC46. So before I found NC46, I used to actually mix NC45 and 7.5 Match Master, but now I just use MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NC46. That's what I do. Now, I've talked a lot, as I said, foundations, you guys, are like so tricky. So let me go ahead and just apply my foundation. I'm gonna take, again, NC45 back in my hand, okay? And then my Match Master 7.5, again, I could just use my NC46, but for the purpose of the video, I'll just go ahead and mix it. I'm gonna mix it together, okay? This is what we get. All right, I'm gonna add a warm pump of Match Master, just gonna warm it up a little bit more. Okay. And there we go. Now it's a little bit warmer. And then first, before applying the foundation, I'm gonna spray my face with MAC Fix Plus. And of course, that also helps to help moisturize the skin, because applying foundation onto dry skin just is not no bueno, you guys. So I applied that, and I'm gonna go ahead and just apply this all over. Applying little small strokes, and I'll go in and blend it out with a brush. So now we have our little stripes on. I always typically blend my foundation out with a brush. I just love using a brush. My go-to brushes are the e.l.f., what is this called? I'll leave it below. It's the e.l.f. foundation brush. It's just a rounded e.l.f. brush. There's no name on here, but I believe it's the Flawless Foundation brush, I believe. I don't know. But it's just a cheap $6 brush that works really, really well. It's like a round dome brush. And then my new favorite one, you guys, is the Sigma Flat Kabuki brush. It's the F80. I'm gonna use this one to blend it out. And this one blends out like a dream. Oh my gosh, it blends foundation out, you guys, so easily and so nicely. I'm kind of just blending out and stippling at the same time. Kind of blend and stipple. that's blending, and stippling is pressing it down. So, and the stippling is what helps to prevent streak lines. So if you ever have issues with the foundation being streaky, and by streaky I mean like, you know, leaving actual streak marks, then try using stippling motions as opposed to blending. Because stippling is what I have learned helps to prevent those streaky lines. And then always, always, always blend your foundation into your neck. That's like a rule, like a golden rule. Always blend your foundation down into your neck, because if you do not, then you'll have that line. You know how people have that line where it's like foundation just ends here and there's like no seamless transition from like your face to the rest of your body? You definitely don't want that. So always blend it down in the neck area. So that is our foundation blended in. As you can see, I have a really, really close match there. Like a really close match. Alrighty, so now that our foundation is all blended in, I always typically go in with a damp beauty blender all over my face, and that kind of just helps make sure that I don't have any excess product sitting there, because you know sometimes you can have just like excess foundation on your skin. So let's kind of use this to kind of soak up any excess product, and then also make sure everything is nice and blended in, and also press that foundation into the skin so we have a nice seamless look or finish. So that is it for our foundation, and of course next of course is concealer, contouring, highlighting, all that good stuff, powders, all that good stuff. But this is again the base, which is, it was kind of long-winded, but that's because there's a lot of different pieces whenever it comes to like picking your foundation shade, actually applying it, figuring out your skin tone, you know, your undertone, all that good stuff. It's a lot to it, but I promise you, like, those tips will save you a lot of time and a lot of money. Alright, you guys, so after I have done my eyes, brows, finished my skin and all that, here is the final look. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I don't know, I've really been enjoying these kind of makeup for beginner basics. And even though I know this one was like really long-winded and like super duper detailed for just like foundation, I think all the tips I mentioned are like really, really important. And then like once I do the second part, which is like the highlighting and contouring and powders and all that, I feel like it'll come kind of full circle and it'll all make sense. So if you guys enjoyed this how to apply foundation like a pro video, then go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And with that being said, I will catch you all in the next video. Bye guys.